To build a functional digital product today, you have to align a whole ecosystem of specialized disciplines. You need someone mapping the interface, someone writing the client-side code, another architecting the server logic, and a DevOps specialist for uptime. When you chop an idea into 4 distinct pieces and hand them to separate silos, you introduce integration bottlenecks as teams wait on each other. Every time the front end talks to the back end or a design adapts to database constraints, cross-team miscommunication occurs. Those miscommunications translate directly into hard costs. Timelines stretch out by weeks, budgets inflate to cover constant revisions, and the final application is highly susceptible to crashing under the weight of its own disconnected codebases when you try to scale. This is why many companies bypass the piecemeal approach entirely and hire a full-stack agency to centralize the entire tech stack under one roof. One team handles the UI, the front end, the back end, and the cloud deployment. Consolidating the workload gives you technical consistency and faster deployment, but it requires you to accept a major trade-off. You are trading the headache of project management for the loss of direct granular control over your own engineering process. Handing your project to a full-stack agency is not a single standardized transaction. Firms offer distinct engagement models depending on how you want to work, ranging from strict fixed-scope builds to dedicated long-term teams, or even hourly troubleshooting. You have to match the model to the problem. A startup trying to get a minimum viable product out the door operates under completely different constraints than a logistics enterprise building a blockchain-based supply chain traceability system. To evaluate which model makes sense for your stage, this quadrant chart asks you to weigh 2 competing metrics: how much flexibility and control you require versus your need for budget predictability and deployment speed. If you apply the wrong engagement model to your current business stage, a highly capable digital solution will quickly turn into an expensive operational bottleneck. Let's look at the fixed scope MVP. In this model, you and the agency agree on rigid blueprints for the interface, the user experience, and the database architecture before a single line of code is written. On our evaluation chart, this model lands out on the x-axis. You gain budget predictability, but sacrifice flexibility. Those rigid boundaries ensure you launch quickly. You know exactly what it will cost and exactly when it will be ready, providing a guaranteed cap on investment. The catch is that you cannot change your mind. If you realize halfway through development that users need a different feature set, pivoting requires costly change orders and significant timeline delays. This approach trades product agility for budget certainty. It is the correct structure if you need a working prototype to secure investor funding, but it is restrictive if your product relies on constant iteration based on early user feedback. On the other end of the spectrum is the dedicated full-stack team. Here, you integrate an external unit of specialized engineers into your company for continuous, long-term development. This grants you immediate access to complex, advanced technology stacks. You can implement generative AI integrations or enterprise blockchain systems without spending 6 months trying to recruit and interview niche engineering talent. On the matrix, this model shoots up the y-axis for control and flexibility, allowing you to pivot the product roadmap on a weekly basis, but it drops low on the predictability axis. Because you are retaining an entire team on an ongoing basis, you have to absorb a consistently high operational expense, regardless of how much code is shipped in a given month. You also take on long-term architectural risk. Your business becomes heavily dependent on an external vendor to maintain your core intellectual property. Hiring a dedicated team functions like a CTO as a service. You buy immediate technological velocity, but you permanently tether your company's technical pipeline to an outside entity. Both of these models rely heavily on how the agency handles complex technological integrations, specifically connecting third-party APIs and managing your cloud infrastructure. The primary benefit of these connections is automation. By linking payment gateways, CRMs, and supply chain databases, you remove the need for manual data entry and human oversight across your various platforms. But automation carries hidden costs. You commit to recurring software fees for those third-party services, and you require constant post-launch maintenance to ensure external APIs don't break every time an integrated platform runs an update. Having the agency manage this whole process does create a clear workflow benefit. Consolidating the design, quality assurance testing, and DevOps under one roof eliminates the miscommunication that happens between siloed departments. But while that unified workflow is highly efficient, it removes your internal checks and balances. Without a separate engineering team reviewing the code, you are forced to implicitly trust the agency's own quality assurance reporting. Ultimately, outsourcing your stack comes down to a clear exchange. You are purchasing velocity and cross-platform compatibility at the direct expense of internal technical ownership. This matrix maps business profiles to engagement models. Bootstrapped founders use the fixed scope MVP model to build stable products for funding. Legacy enterprises utilize a dedicated team for seamless cloud migration. Scaling business IT directors use hourly support to inject expertise without surrendering architectural control. The value of a full-stack agency depends on how precisely its integration model fits your specific financial and operational constraints.